My name is Dorothy, and the house I am standing in right now almost stopped being mine. I am an old woman. My hands shake when I hold a cup. My knees hurt when I climb the stairs. But this house, this small, quiet house on Maple Street, is my whole life. I bought it with money I saved for years. I raised my son here. I cried here. I prayed here. I survived here. And today, my daughter-in-law stood in my living room and told me it no longer belonged to me. She said it calmly, like she was talking about the weather. "This house is ours now," she said, smiling. "You should start packing." That was the moment my heart almost stopped. Before I tell you how she dared to say that, let me ask you something. If you have ever been betrayed by family, if someone you trusted tried to take what was yours, then please subscribe, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what country are you watching from right now? I want to know where my people are. Now listen carefully, because what happened next still makes my hands shake. She pulled out a folder. Inside it were papers. Legal papers. She slid them across my dining table and said, "You signed this last year. Don't you remember?" I looked at the paper. My name was on it. My signature was there. And that was when I realized something terrible. I had been tricked. But before I tell you how she did it, let me take you back to when I first welcomed her into my home. Years ago, when my son brought her home, I thought God had answered my prayers. She was polite, soft-spoken, always smiling. She called me Mama from the first day. She cooked for me when my arthritis was bad. She held my arm when I walked. She listened when I talked about my late husband. I trusted her. When my son said, "Mama, she wants to help take care of you," I felt proud. I felt safe. That was my first mistake. Slowly, things changed. She began handling small things for me. "My hands are tired," I would say. "I'll do it," she replied quickly. She paid the bills. She organized my documents. She asked questions about the house. "Did you buy it alone? Is the title only in your name? Have you ever thought about what will happen when you get older?" I thought she was just being caring. I did not see the trap. One afternoon, she came to me with a warm smile and a pen. "Mama," she said gently, "this is just a small paper. It allows me to help you with hospital matters and emergencies. Just in case." I was tired that day. My eyes were weak. My head hurt. She pointed to the line and said, "Just sign here." I signed. That single moment changed everything. Back in the present, my mouth was dry as I stared at the papers on the table. "You gave me power of attorney," she said calmly. "And later you signed this too." I flipped the page. It talked about property. My house. My son stood behind her. Quiet. Silent. Not looking at me. "Is this true?" I asked him, my voice breaking. He did not answer. That silence hurt more than a slap. She leaned closer and whispered, "You're old, Mama. You don't need such a big house. We do." I felt my chest tighten. This was not the girl who called me Mama. This was a stranger. That night, I cried alone in my room. I held my husband's old photo and asked him why he left me with snakes instead of children. But even in my tears, something inside me woke up. I remembered something important. Something she did not know. Something hidden. Something powerful. The next morning, she changed the locks. Yes. She locked me out of my own house. I stood outside with my small bag, neighbors watching, my daughter-in-law inside drinking tea like a queen. She smiled through the window and said, "We'll talk later." That was the moment I decided. She might have tried to steal my house. But she had no idea who she was dealing with. Because I was not done yet. And what I was about to do next would turn everything upside down. But before I could make my move, something shocking happened at the door that made my blood run cold. That night, I did not sleep. I sat on a plastic chair outside my own house, my small bag at my feet, my back against the cold wall. The porch light was on, but it no longer felt like my light. Inside, I could hear laughter, plates clinking, a television playing loudly. They were comfortable. I was homeless. A neighbor came out and asked softly, "Mama, what happened?" I could not answer. If I opened my mouth, I knew I would cry. So I just shook my head. I waited until the house went quiet. When the lights finally went off, I stood up slowly and walked to the back of the house. There was a small shed there, old and dusty. My late husband built it with his own hands. I found a blanket inside and sat on the floor. That shed became my shelter. As the night grew colder, my mind became clearer. I replayed everything. The papers. The smiles. The silence of my son. Then I remembered something important. Before my husband died, he warned me. He said, "Dorothy, never trust anyone fully with this house. Not even family. People change when money is involved." At the time I laughed. Now, his words burned inside me. Early the next morning, I heard footsteps. The back door opened. My son came out alone. "Mama," he whispered, looking around. "Why are you sleeping here?" I stared at him. My voice was calm, but my heart was shaking. "You tell me," I said. "Why am I locked out of my own house?" He sighed and rubbed his face. "She says it's for your safety," he said quietly. "She says you need rest. She says the house is stressful for you." "And you believe her?" I asked. He looked down. That hurt more than anything she had done. "I didn't know what I was signing either," he said quickly. "She said it was normal. She said it was to protect us." "Protect who?" I asked. "Me, or her future?" He had no answer. That was when I knew something was very wrong. Later that day, she came out dressed neatly, keys in her hand. She did not look at me like a mother. She looked at me like a problem. "You can stay with your sister for now," she said. "We'll figure things out." I smiled. Not because I was weak, but because I had already made a decision. I nodded and said, "You're right." She looked surprised. That night, I went to my sister's house. I slept on a bed. I ate warm food. But my mind was not there. The next morning, I went somewhere important. I went to the courthouse. I stood in line for hours. My legs hurt. My back ached. But I did not leave. When it was my turn, I told the clerk everything. Slowly. Clearly. With truth. She looked at the documents and frowned. "Ma'am," she said, "these papers were signed under power of attorney. But there are conditions." My heart jumped. "What conditions?" I asked. She lowered her voice. "If there is proof of deception, coercion, or lack of understanding, this can be challenged." I felt hope for the first time in days. She gave me a list of steps. Names. Offices. People I needed to see. But before I left, she asked me one question that made my stomach twist. "Did you ever sign another document? Something like a trust or transfer deed?" I froze. Another paper. Another day. Another smile. I remembered. "Yes," I whispered. Her face changed. "That complicates things," she said. I walked out of the courthouse shaking. That same afternoon, my daughter-in-law called me. Her voice was sweet again. "Mama," she said, "we need to talk. I've arranged something for you." "Arranged what?" I asked. "A care home," she replied. "It's best for everyone." My hands trembled. A care home. She was trying to erase me. I said nothing and hung up. That evening, my sister brought me tea. She looked worried. "You should let it go," she said gently. "They are younger. Fighting them will break you." I looked at her and said, "If I let this go, I will die standing instead of living. That night, I went through my old boxes, photos, letters, receipts, and then I found it. An envelope, brown, worn, untouched for years. Inside was something my husband hid. Something legal. Something powerful. Something that could change everything. My heart raced. But before I could read it fully, my phone rang. It was a number I did not recognize. I answered. A man's voice said, "Ma'am, I'm calling about the house on Maple Street. There's been an urgent request filed in your name." "In my name?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "To sell the property." I dropped the phone. She was moving fast. Faster than I expected. And now I had very little time. Because if I did not act immediately, by tomorrow morning, my house could be gone forever. And just as I reached for the envelope again, someone knocked loudly on my sister's door. The knock on the door was loud. Not polite. Not gentle. It was the kind of knock that made your heart jump before your body could move. My sister froze. The cup in her hand shook. "Who could that be?" she whispered. I stood up slowly. Every part of me felt heavy. My mind was racing, but my body felt old and tired. Still, something inside me said, "Do not be afraid." I walked to the door and opened it. Two people stood there. A man in a dark jacket holding a file. And behind him, my daughter-in-law. She was smiling. But her smile did not reach her eyes. "Mama," she said sweetly, "we were worried about you." The man cleared his throat. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm a legal agent. We need to talk about the property on Maple Street." My sister stepped back in shock. "In my house?" she asked. He nodded. "It won't take long." I let them in. They sat on the couch like they owned the place. The man opened his file and spoke calmly, like he was reading a grocery list. "There has been a request to transfer ownership and begin the sale process of the property," he said. "We just need confirmation." I felt my chest tighten. "Confirmation from who?" I asked. "From you," he replied. "You are listed as the current legal owner." My daughter-in-law quickly added, "And I'm listed as the authorized representative." I looked at her. She avoided my eyes. "I did not request any sale," I said firmly. The man paused. "But the request is signed." I slowly reached into my bag and pulled out the brown envelope. "I would like you to read something," I said. Both of them stiffened. I took out the paper inside. My hands shook, but my voice was steady. "This is a legal addendum signed by my late husband and witnessed years ago," I said. "It states that this house cannot be sold, transferred, or claimed by anyone while I am alive without my full written consent and independent legal review." The room went quiet. The man leaned forward and read carefully. My daughter-in-law's face changed. "What is that?" she snapped. "Something you didn't find," I replied. The man nodded slowly. "This document is valid," he said. "And it changes things." She stood up suddenly. "This is ridiculous," she said sharply. "She doesn't even understand half of what she signs." I looked at her and said calmly, "I understand enough to know you lied." The man closed his file. "I will need to suspend any sale process until this is reviewed by the court," he said. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. They left shortly after. When the door closed, my sister sat down hard. "You were this close," she whispered. I nodded. But the war was not over. That night, my son called me. "Mama," he said, his voice low, "why are you doing this?" I laughed softly. "Why am I fighting for my house?" I asked. "Is that your question?" He was silent. "She says you're confused," he said finally. "She says you're being manipulated." "By who?" I asked. "The dead man who warned me about this?" He did not answer. I hung up. The next morning, I went to see a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. An old one. A patient one. I told him everything. He listened. He asked questions. He took notes. Finally, he looked up and said, "They underestimated you." He explained something that made my heart beat faster. "The power of attorney does not allow her to act against your clear interest," he said. "And if we prove deception, it can be revoked." "But what about the paper I signed?" I asked. He nodded. "That's where it gets serious. But not impossible." He filed an emergency notice that same day. A legal freeze. No sale. No transfer. No eviction. When my daughter-in-law got the notice, she exploded. She came to my sister's house screaming. "You're ruining everything," she shouted. "You're selfish." Neighbors watched. My sister begged her to lower her voice. I stepped outside and looked her straight in the eyes. "You planned this," I said calmly. "You thought I would be quiet." She leaned close to my face and hissed, "You should have stayed old and silent." That was the moment my son arrived. He looked between us. And then, he did something I never expected. He slapped the papers out of her hand. "What are you doing?" she yelled. "I'm tired," he said. "I didn't marry you to steal from my mother." She stared at him like she did not recognize him. "You promised," she whispered. "I promised to be a husband," he replied. "Not a thief." She walked away that night. But before she left, she turned and said one last thing. "This isn't over." And she was right. Because 2 days later, I received a court notice. She was suing me. For the house. And the date on the paper made my heart stop, because the hearing was scheduled for the very next morning. I did not sleep the night I received the court notice. I sat on the edge of my sister's bed, holding the paper in my hands, reading the words again and again, hoping they would change. Court hearing. Property dispute. Next morning. My heart beat so loud I could hear it in my ears. At my age, court was a scary word. I had never stood before a judge in my life. I had always obeyed the law, paid my taxes, raised my child the right way. Now I was being dragged into a courtroom like a criminal. By my own daughter-in-law. My sister tried to comfort me. "Maybe she won't show up," she said softly. But deep down, we both knew better. That woman did not play halfway. Before sunrise, I dressed carefully. I wore my best church dress. Simple. Clean. Respectful. I tied my scarf slowly, my hands shaking. "This is not about clothes," I whispered to myself. "This is about truth." On the way to the courthouse, my son finally called. "Mama," he said, his voice tired. "I'm coming with you." I closed my eyes. That was the first good thing I had heard from him in days. When we arrived, my daughter-in-law was already there. She looked confident. Too confident. She wore a sharp suit and sat beside a young lawyer who kept whispering in her ear. She did not look at me. Not even once. The courtroom filled slowly. People whispered. Papers rustled. Shoes tapped on the floor. When the judge entered, everyone stood. My knees shook as I sat back down. The judge looked at the case file and sighed. "This is an unfortunate family matter," he said. "But the law must be followed." Her lawyer spoke first. He said I was old. He said I was confused. He said I was being influenced by others. He said the documents proved I had already given consent. Each word felt like a small knife. When he finished, the judge looked at me. "Ma'am," he said kindly, "do you understand what this case is about?" "Yes," I replied clearly. "Someone tried to take my home." My daughter-in-law scoffed. The judge raised his hand. "Let her speak," he said. I told my story slowly. I talked about trust. About illness. About being asked to sign papers without full explanation. About being locked out of my own house. The room was quiet. Then my lawyer stood. He presented the envelope. He explained my husband's legal addendum. He showed how the power of attorney was misused. He said words I did not fully understand, but I understood one thing. He was fighting for me. The judge leaned back and rubbed his chin. This document, he said, holding the addendum, is significant. My daughter-in-law shifted in her seat. Then something unexpected happened. The judge asked, "Where is the son?" My son stood up slowly. "Yes, Your Honor." "Did you witness any of these documents being explained to your mother clearly?" the judge asked. My son swallowed hard. "No," he said. "I did not." My daughter-in-law turned to him, her eyes wide. "You said," she began. The judge cut her off. "And did you participate in changing the locks on the property?" the judge continued. My son nodded. "Yes," he said quietly. "At her request." The judge's face hardened. The courtroom felt smaller, heavier. After a long pause, the judge spoke. "This court is issuing a temporary injunction," he said. "No sale. No eviction. No transfer. The property remains under the original owner's control until a full review." I felt weak. Relief washed over me like warm water. But the judge was not finished. "I also recommend a full investigation into potential elder exploitation," he added. My daughter-in-law stood up, shaking. "This is unfair," she shouted. She agreed to everything. The judge looked at her calmly. "Sit down," he said. "You are done speaking." Outside the courtroom, she exploded. "You ruined my life," she screamed at me. I looked at her and said quietly, "You tried to erase mine." She walked away, furious. My son followed me out slowly. "I didn't know it would go this far," he said. "That's the problem," I replied. "You didn't know anything." For a few days, there was silence. No calls. No visits. No threats. I thought maybe it was over. I was wrong. One evening, my sister received a call. She handed me the phone with shaking hands. "It's the bank," she whispered. The man on the line sounded nervous. "Ma'am," he said, "we're calling about a loan application using your property as collateral." My stomach dropped. "A loan?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "A large one. Approved earlier this week." Approved. Using my house. I felt dizzy. "She found another way," I whispered. "And this time, it wasn't just my house at risk. It was everything. Because if that loan went through, the house could be taken even without a sale. And I had only one day to stop it." When I hung up the phone, my hands would not stop shaking. A loan. A large loan. Using my house. I sat down slowly, afraid my legs would give out. "How is that possible?" my sister asked. "The judge said no sale, no transfer." I closed my eyes. "She found a crack," I whispered. "And she pushed through it." That night, fear came back stronger than before. Not loud fear. Quiet fear. The kind that sits in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. If the bank took the house, it would not matter who owned it on paper. The house would be gone. Early the next morning, I was at the lawyer's office before the sun fully rose. I sat outside his door until the receptionist arrived. When he heard about the loan, his face turned serious. "This is dangerous," he said. "If she convinced the bank she had authority, this could turn ugly." "But the court order?" I asked. He nodded. "That should protect you. But banks move fast. We must act faster." He called the bank immediately. He put the phone on speaker. "This property is under a court injunction," he said firmly. "Any financial action using it as collateral is invalid." The man on the line hesitated. "There is a document," he said. "A notarized consent." My heart sank. "What consent?" I asked. The lawyer raised his hand, telling me to stay quiet. "Send us everything," he said. Immediately. When the documents arrived, My chest burned. It was my signature again. Or something that looked like it. This is not my handwriting, I said. I never signed this. My lawyer nodded slowly. This, he said, is forgery. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something stronger than fear. Anger. How could she do this? My sister cried. She thought I was weak, I said. She thought I would be quiet. We filed an emergency fraud report that same hour. Forgery. Elder abuse. Financial exploitation. The words sounded heavy, but they were true. By afternoon, the bank froze the loan. But the damage was not done yet. Because when my daughter-in-law realized her plan failed, she did something cruel. She turned my son against me. That evening, he came to my sister's house, angry. "You're destroying my marriage," he shouted. I looked at him calmly. "Your wife tried to steal my house," I said. "She was trying to secure our future," he yelled. "At the cost of mine?" I asked. He fell silent. Then he said something that broke my heart. "She's pregnant." The room went quiet. I sat down slowly. "A child. My grandchild. Now everyone thinks you're the villain," he continued. "She says you want us homeless." Tears filled my eyes. "I just want my home," I whispered. He left without another word. That night, I cried harder than I had since my husband died. I cried for my son. For the baby I might never hold. For the family I thought I had. But in the middle of my tears, my phone buzzed. A message. From a number I did not know. "I have proof. Meet me tomorrow. Come alone." My heart raced. Proof of what? I showed the message to my lawyer the next morning. "This could be dangerous," he warned. "But it could also end everything," I replied. I went. The meeting place was a small cafe near the courthouse. A young woman sat in the corner, her head down. When she saw me, she stood up nervously. "My name doesn't matter," she said quickly. I worked for her. For who? I asked, though I already knew. "She paid me to help," the woman whispered. "She told me you were sick. That you didn't understand things." She slid an envelope across the table. Inside were recordings. Messages. Instructions. My daughter-in-law's voice. Clear. Cold. "She won't fight back," the voice said. "She's old. Just make sure the papers look real." I felt sick. "This will ruin her," the woman said softly. "She ruined herself," I replied. As I stood up to leave, my phone rang again. This time, it was my lawyer. "Dorothy," he said urgently. "She just filed another motion." "For what?" I asked. "To have you declared mentally unfit." The cafe spun around me. She was not trying to take my house anymore. She was trying to erase me. And if she succeeded, I would lose everything. My home, my voice, and my future. When I heard the words mentally unfit, my body went cold. Not because I was confused. Not because I was weak. But because I knew exactly what that meant. If the court believed her, I would lose the right to speak for myself. I would lose control over my money, my home, my life. Someone else would decide everything for me. And that someone would be her. I sat down slowly in the cafe chair. The young woman who had brought the evidence looked scared. "I didn't know she would go this far," she whispered. "She planned this from the beginning," I replied. I left the cafe and went straight to my lawyer's office. He was already waiting, papers spread across his desk. "She filed an emergency petition," he said. "She claims you are forgetful, confused, and easily influenced." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insulting. "She used my age as a weapon," I said. He nodded. "That's common. But it doesn't mean she will win." "What do we do?" I asked. "We fight," he said calmly. "With facts." That same day, He arranged for a full medical and mental evaluation. Doctors. Specialists. Long tests. I answered every question. What day is it? Who is the president? Count backwards. Remember these words. I did everything. The doctors looked at me with respect. You are sharp, one of them said. Tired, yes. Old, yes. But not unfit. I smiled for the first time that day. But my daughter-in-law was not done. The next morning, I woke up to shouting outside my sister's house. Neighbors had gathered. A car was parked in front. 2 people stepped out wearing official badges. Adult Protective Services, one of them said. My heart sank. She had called them. She reported concern for your safety, the woman said gently. We need to ask you a few questions. I invited them inside. I told them everything. I showed them the court order, the bank fraud report, the recordings. They listened carefully. At the end, the man closed his notebook and said something I will never forget. Ma'am, it appears you are the one being abused. They left shortly after. But the damage was already spreading. Rumors. Whispers. People from church stopped calling. Some looked at me with pity. Others with doubt. She's losing it, someone said behind my back. That hurt. More than the legal papers. That evening, my son came again. He looked tired. Broken. She says you're sick, he said quietly. She says the doctors are lying. And what do you think? I asked. He looked at me for a long time. I don't know anymore, he said. That answer broke my heart. I handed him the recordings. Listen, I said. He hesitated, then pressed play. Her voice filled the room. Cold. Cruel. Planned. She won't fight back. She's old. Just make sure the papers look real. My son's face changed. When the recording ended, his hands were shaking. She did this, he whispered. Yes, I said. And you helped her. He dropped his head and cried. I'm sorry, Mama, he said. I didn't see it. I know, I replied softly. That's why it hurts. He stood up suddenly. I'm going to the lawyer, he said. I'll tell the truth. I watched him leave with mixed feelings. Hope. And fear. Because when someone like her starts to lose control, they become dangerous. Late that night, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. Her voice came through, calm and low. You think you're winning, she said. But I still have one move left. What move? I asked. She laughed softly. Tomorrow, she said, everyone will see who you really are. The line went dead. The next morning, my sister ran into my room holding her phone. Oh my God, she said. You need to see this. She showed me the screen. A video. Posted online. My face. My house. My name. The title read, Old Woman Refuses to Let Young Family Have a Future. My knees buckled. Thousands of views. Hundreds of comments. People judging me. Calling me selfish. Calling me cruel. Calling me crazy. She had turned the world against me. And the worst part? The video ended with a message. Court tomorrow. The truth will come out. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Because tomorrow was not just another court day. Tomorrow would decide everything. And I had no idea what she planned to do next. The night before court felt longer than any night I had ever lived through. I did not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the comments under that video. Strangers calling me names. People who did not know my life judging me like they were there when I buried my husband, when I raised my son alone, when I worked 2 jobs to pay for that house. My sister tried to turn off her phone, but messages kept coming in. Is this true? Why are you doing this to your son? Let the young people live. Each message felt like a stone on my chest. By morning, I felt empty. Not weak. Empty. At the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Cameras. Microphones. I had never seen anything like it. As I stepped out of the car, someone shouted, "Ma'am, why won't you give your house to your son?" Another voice asked, "Are you really mentally fit?" My son walked beside me, his head down. He looked ashamed, angry, lost. My daughter-in-law arrived moments later. She looked calm, victorious. She placed a hand on her stomach so everyone could see. Pregnant. The cameras rushed to her. "She's trying to take my baby's future," she said loudly, her voice shaking perfectly. "All we want is a home." People murmured. I felt small. Inside the courtroom, the air was thick. The judge entered, and the room went silent. Her lawyer spoke first again. He played the video. He showed screenshots of comments. He painted me as cruel, as selfish, as unstable. "This woman is confused," he said. "She is being influenced by outside forces. She refuses to accept reality." My hands clenched in my lap. Then my lawyer stood. He did not rush. He did not shout. He asked the judge for permission to present new evidence. Granted. He played the recordings. The courtroom froze. Her voice echoed again. "She won't fight back. She's old. Make sure the papers look real." Gasps filled the room. Her lawyer stood up quickly. "That audio is edited," he shouted. My lawyer smiled slightly. "We have metadata, witnesses, and the original device." The judge leaned forward. My daughter-in-law's face turned pale. Then my lawyer did something I did not expect. He called my son to the stand. My heart stopped. He looked at me before sitting down. His voice shook as he spoke. "I helped change the locks," he said. "I signed things I didn't understand. I trusted my wife." Her head snapped toward him. "You promised me," she whispered. He did not look at her. "I was wrong," he said. "And I'm sorry." The judge asked him one question. "Did your mother ever agree to sell her house?" "No," he said firmly. "Never." The room was silent. Then the judge called for the medical reports. The evaluations. Page after page. "She is mentally sound," the judge read. "Fully capable." Her lawyer sat down slowly. My daughter-in-law stood up suddenly. "You're all lying," she screamed. "She manipulated everyone." The judge banged his gavel. "Sit down," he ordered. She refused. Security moved closer. That was when she broke. She cried. She shouted. She pointed at me. "I deserve that house," she yelled. "I sacrificed everything." I stood up slowly. For the first time, the judge allowed me to speak without being questioned. I looked at her, then at the judge, then at the room. "I gave birth to my son," I said softly. "I buried my husband in that house. I paid for it with my life." My voice grew stronger. "No one is entitled to another person's sacrifice." The judge nodded. After a long pause, he spoke. "This court finds clear evidence of deception, coercion, and attempted exploitation," he said. "All authority granted is revoked." Relief washed over me. But the judge was not finished. "Further," he continued, "this court refers this matter for criminal investigation." Her face went white. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed out. She collapsed into her chair. My son covered his face. But as we walked out, my lawyer grabbed my arm. "Wait," he whispered. "There's something else." "What?" I asked. He handed me his phone. A message. "The house is on fire." My heart stopped. Because while we were fighting in court, something terrible was happening at home. And I had no idea if my house was still standing. I do not remember running. I only remember breathing hard and hearing my heart pound in my ears as we rushed out of the courthouse. Is it real? I asked my lawyer, my voice shaking. Is my house really on fire? He was already on the phone. Yes, that's my client, he said urgently. What do you mean electrical? My son followed us, pale and silent. Outside, the sky looked normal. Blue. Calm. Like nothing bad could possibly be happening. That made it worse. We drove fast. Too fast. As we turned onto Maple Street, I smelled it before I saw it. Smoke. Thick. Dark. Heavy. Fire trucks filled the street. Red lights flashed. Neighbors stood outside, some crying, some whispering, some filming with their phones. And there it was. My house. My home. Black smoke poured from the windows. Flames licked the roof. The porch where I used to sit in the evenings was burning. I screamed. I tried to run forward, but my son grabbed me. Mama, you can't, he said, his voice breaking. Please. Firefighters moved in and out quickly. Water sprayed everywhere. The sound was loud and terrifying. I felt like my legs were no longer part of my body. That's my life, I whispered. Everything I owned is in there. A firefighter approached us. Ma'am, he said gently, are you the homeowner? Yes, I replied. That's my house. He nodded slowly. The fire started in the living room, he said. We're investigating the cause. My lawyer stepped forward. Was anyone inside? He asked. No, the firefighter replied. The house was empty when we arrived. Empty. That word echoed in my head. Empty. Because she locked me out. Because she pushed me out. Because she tried to erase me. As the fire slowly came under control, I noticed something strange. The front door. It was open. Broken. The lock was damaged. My heart sank. I looked at my lawyer. This is not an accident, I whispered. He nodded. The firefighters finally put out the flames. Smoke still rose from the roof. Water covered the ground. They let me walk closer. The living room was destroyed. The couch. The pictures. The curtains. Gone. But as I stood there, shaking, one firefighter pointed toward the back of the house. Ma'am, he said, the fire didn't reach everything. I followed him. The back bedroom. My bedroom. It was damaged, but still standing. The old wooden wardrobe was blackened, but not burned through. Inside that wardrobe was where I kept my most important papers. My heart raced. Can I check? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. I opened the wardrobe slowly. My hands trembled. The box was still there, wet, smelling of smoke, but intact. I opened it. The documents were damp, but readable. The deed, the addendum, everything. I sank to my knees and cried, but my relief did not last long. A police officer approached us. Ma'am, he said, we need to ask you a few questions. About the fire? I asked. Yes, he replied. We found traces of an accelerant. Gasoline. My stomach dropped. This was set on purpose, he said quietly. I looked around at the neighbors. Some were whispering again. Some looked shocked. Some looked confused. And then I saw her. Standing across the street. My daughter-in-law. She was watching the house burn. Her face was calm. Too calm. When our eyes met, she did not look away. She smiled. A small smile. Cold. I took a step forward, but the officer held up his hand. Ma'am, he said, do you recognize that woman? Yes, I replied. That's her. He nodded and walked toward her. She began crying immediately. I just came to check on Mama, she said loudly. I heard there was a fire. People turned to look at me. She played the part perfectly. But the officer was not convinced. Ma'am, he said, Where were you an hour ago? She hesitated. Just for a second. I was at home, she said. Can anyone confirm that? He asked. She looked around. No one spoke. Then something unexpected happened. A neighbor stepped forward. I saw her earlier, the man said. She was here, going in and out of the house. My daughter-in-law's face changed. Another neighbor spoke up. She asked me if I smelled gas, the woman said. I thought it was strange. The officer's eyes narrowed. He turned to her again. Ma'am, he said, we're going to need you to come with us. She started screaming. She's lying, she shouted, pointing at me. She did this to frame me. I stood there silently. I was too tired to speak. They took her away in a police car, still shouting, still crying, still blaming me. As the car drove off, my son collapsed onto the curb. I trusted her, he whispered. I trusted her. I placed my hand on his shoulder. I know, I said. So did I. That night, I stayed with my sister again. I smelled like smoke. My clothes were ruined. My heart felt broken. But I was alive. And my house, though damaged, was still standing. Just before midnight, my lawyer called. They charged her, he said quietly. Arson. Fraud. Elder abuse. I closed my eyes. Finally. But before I could rest, another call came in. Unknown number. I answered slowly. A man's voice spoke. Ma'am, he said, I'm calling from the insurance company. We need to inform you of something important. What is it? I asked. There was a pause. Your policy was changed last month, he said. You are no longer listed as the primary beneficiary. My breath caught in my throat. No, I whispered. Yes, he continued. Someone replaced your name. My hands began to shake again, because even after everything, she had found one last way to hurt me. And if that policy stood, I would lose everything the fire didn't take. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. Replaced my name? I asked slowly, making sure I heard him correctly. With whose name? The man on the phone hesitated. I'm not authorized to say over the phone, he replied. But the change was signed and approved. Signed. Approved. Those two words again. I closed my eyes and leaned against the wall. Send me everything, I said. Every document. Every signature. When the call ended, I sat down heavily. My sister looked at me with fear in her eyes. What is it now? She asked. She changed my insurance, I replied. If the house burned down completely, she would have collected the money. My sister covered her mouth. That means, she began. Yes, I finished. She didn't just want the house. She wanted me gone from the picture completely. The truth hit me hard. This fire was not just anger. It was a plan. The next morning, my lawyer came to see me in person. He looked serious, but there was something else in his eyes too. Determination. This insurance change, he said, flipping through the documents, was filed using the same forged authority. So it can be reversed? I asked. Yes, he replied. But there's more. He slid another paper toward me. She named herself beneficiary, he said. And your son as a backup. My heart twisted. He didn't know, I said quickly. I believe that, my lawyer replied. But the court will still want answers. That afternoon, my son came to see me. He looked like he hadn't slept. His eyes were red. His shoulders slumped. She did all this, he said quietly. And I didn't see it. I held his hand. You were fooled, I said. That doesn't make you evil. It makes you human. He nodded, tears falling. I'll testify, he said. About everything. The locks. The papers. The insurance. All of it. I squeezed his hand. That matters, I said. More than you know. Later that day, we went back to court. Not for drama. For protection. The judge listened carefully as my lawyer explained the insurance fraud and the arson charges. The judge's face hardened with every word. This is no longer a civil matter alone, he said. This is criminal. He signed an emergency order on the spot. All insurance changes reversed. All assets frozen. Full protective order issued in my favor. I should have felt relief. But something still felt wrong. Too quiet. Too easy. That night, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed again. A message. From her. You think this is over. You took everything from me. I'll make sure you pay. My heart pounded. I showed the message to my lawyer the next morning. That's a threat, he said. We'll add it to the case. But threats were not what scared me anymore. It was desperation. People who have nothing left are the most dangerous. That afternoon, I received a call from the jail. She wanted to speak to me. I hesitated. Don't go, my sister begged. You owe her nothing. But I needed to hear it. I needed to look her in the eyes and understand how someone could fall so far. At the visitation room, she sat behind the glass. No makeup. No smile. Her eyes were burning. You won, she said coldly. Happy now? I didn't win, I replied. I survived. She laughed bitterly. You took my future, she said. That house was supposed to be my fresh start. That house was my life, I said calmly. She leaned closer to the glass. You're old, she hissed. You won't enjoy it for long. The guard ended the visit immediately. As I walked out, my hands were shaking, but my back was straight. I had faced her. That evening, my lawyer called again. There's been a development, he said. What now? I asked. She's claiming the fire was an accident, he said. And her lawyer just filed a motion to suppress the neighbor testimonies. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. But, he continued, we found something else. What? I asked. A witness, he said. Someone who saw everything. Someone who hasn't spoken yet. My heart raced. Who? I asked. There was a pause. Someone very close to her, he said. Someone who knows where the gasoline came from. My chest tightened. Will they testify? I asked. Yes, he replied. Tomorrow. I looked out the window at the damaged house in the distance. Tomorrow. Another court day. Another fight. But this time, the truth was no longer hiding. And if this witness spoke, everything would finally come out, no matter how ugly it was. The courtroom was silent in a way I had never felt before. Not tense. Not loud. Heavy. Everyone was waiting. I sat straight, my hands folded in my lap. My heart was beating fast, but my mind was clear. For the first time since this nightmare began, I was not afraid of what would happen next. Because the truth was finally walking in. The doors opened. A young man stepped forward. I recognized him immediately. He was my daughter-in-law's younger brother. Gasps moved through the room. My daughter-in-law stiffened. Her eyes widened. For the first time, she looked scared. The judge raised his head. State your name and relation to the defendant, he said. The young man swallowed hard. She's my sister, he replied. And I'm here to tell the truth. Her lawyer jumped up instantly. Your Honor, this witness is emotionally compromised. Sit down, the judge said sharply. He will speak. The young man took a deep breath. She came to me 2 weeks before the fire, he said. She asked me to help move some things out of the house late at night. The room went still. She said she needed to protect what mattered before something happened. My chest tightened. He continued. I helped her carry boxes, documents, jewelry, electronics. She said the old woman wouldn't notice. My daughter-in-law shook her head wildly. He's lying, she shouted. He wants attention. The judge slammed the gavel. Another outburst and you will be removed. The young man's voice shook, but he did not stop. On the night of the fire she called me, he said. She asked where she could buy gasoline late. A murmur swept through the courtroom. She told me, he continued, that once the house burned, the insurance money would solve everything. My son covered his mouth. Tears streamed down his face. The judge leaned forward. Did you see her go to the house that night? He asked. Yes, the young man replied. I followed her because I was scared. I watched her pour gasoline in the living room. A sob escaped my lips. Not from pain. From release. The judge closed his eyes briefly, then spoke. This court has heard enough. He looked directly at my daughter-in-law. You manipulated legal documents, he said. You committed financial fraud. You attempted to exploit an elderly person. And now, you are credibly accused of arson. She screamed. No. No, please. She deserved it. That last sentence echoed through the room. The judge stood. Remand the defendant into custody, he ordered. Bail is denied. Officers moved in. She fought. She cried. She cursed me. You took everything from me, she screamed as they dragged her away. I stood up slowly. I looked at her and said the last words I would ever say to her. You tried to take my house, I said. But you lost your soul. She was gone. The courtroom emptied slowly. Reporters rushed outside, but I did not stop. I walked past them. I was tired, but I was free. Weeks later, I returned to Maple Street. The house was damaged, but standing. The walls were being repaired. The roof was new. The porch was rebuilt. The house smelled like fresh paint instead of smoke. I walked through every room slowly. This was still my home. The insurance was restored. The title was clean. The law was on my side. My son stood beside me, quiet. I failed you, he said. You learned, I replied. That matters more. He nodded. I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. I believed him. Some wounds do not heal quickly, but they heal. That evening, I sat on my rebuilt porch as the sun went down. I felt older, but stronger. If you are watching this and you feel powerless, if someone tried to take what you worked your whole life for, please hear me. Being old does not mean being weak. Being quiet does not mean being stupid. And kindness should never be mistaken for permission. If this story touched you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful stories like this. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Your voice matters more than you think. Because sometimes, the people who think they can steal from you forget one thing. You are still here. And you are not done yet.